friend! I hope you're doing fabulously. Welcome to my kitchen, or welcome to my bookshelf, because we're not in the kitchen today. I was filming an outro and I thought, well, we got everything done. I did a cute, fun new hairstyle. Recently got my hair done and I was feeling it, and I did my makeup for it, so I was like, let's do another video and let's see what I can share to hopefully help you. So in this video, we're going to talk about how I do wedding cake tastings and consultations specifically for wedding cakes, because I know it can be really confusing, especially as a home baker, not knowing like, should I make all my cakes flavors and like have them share it? How much should I charge? Where should we meet? Should I welcome them into my home? I don't know. So my goal here is to answer those for you, so let's get into it. First thing I want to do is share with you how I do my cake tastings, and then I'll go into more detail about what other people have done and how it works for them. And then hopefully you can take what works for you and just like leave to the side what's not your thing, and that's okay. Okay, awesome. So when I get someone coming to me and being like, hey, are you available for this date? Or just kind of like kicking tires, kind of trying to see like what the pricing would be for a wedding cake, what I like to do is transition it into a cake tasting as soon as possible. That way you can see who's really interested, but also it makes a huge difference when you actually meet them, either face-to-face, virtually, or in person. You really get a vibe of who they are and they can understand who you are, so they get invested in this amazing experience. My goal here is when they're reaching out to make them feel special, because this day that they're preparing for, their wedding day, is super special to them, and I want to make them feel like it is my absolute goal and purpose to help them make that day as special as possible. So I try to be really enthusiastic in my communications with them and to be clear, concise, and to be on the side of them. I want them as the customer to feel really comfortable, because it is a huge trust thing to trust someone as a wedding vendor on their special day. First things I hit with them are, one, what's your date? I make sure to check my calendar first, because if you're gonna go through all this work of having a cake tasting, you don't wanna get there, sit down and hear the date and be like, oh crap, I'm in Mexico or on a family vacation when your wedding is, and then it's like, okay, here's some cake, bye. We want to make sure we have that date clear. So that's the first thing I ask. Then I ask them what they're kind of envisioning, to get an idea, to make sure I'm the right person for them, because if they're looking for something that I don't particularly specialize in or something like that, then I might steer them towards another area. When I first started out, I was like, give me anything and everything, I will take it. And I did, and that's how I, one, learned a ton, but also learned what I'm not the best at and what I can help with and what works best for them. Now that we have the date cleared up and I kind of have an idea of what they're going for, I invite them for a wedding cake tasting. And what I say to them is, I would absolutely love to have you guys over for a wedding cake tasting where you and your fiance can taste some cake and we can talk about all the details. And how I set this up is I ask them what a good date or time is for them, and then, but if I have specific dates where I already have wedding cake tastings, I will offer those and specific times that work best for me. My days often are very flexible right now, and so I try to fit them in where it's convenient for them. But if you have specific days where you only want to do this type of thing, like if you can't do it in the morning or evening or weekends, that's something to clarify and say, these are the times that work best for me, does this work for you? That way you guys can match up schedules. So once we have a date and time set, I will send them my flavor list, and I will tell them straight up, the first flavor they want to try is completely free. Any additional flavors they want to try you can try for a small fee. And this ranges between $50 to $45 depending on the flavor, and then that is added up for the consultation fee. And then recently I've decided to put that consultation fee towards their final total of the wedding cake if they choose to go with me, because as I've experimented with it, I find I get a little bit better of a retainment rate if that goes towards their wedding cake and they choose to go with me, which is really nice. And then they're putting that money towards their wedding cake, and you can factor that into your wedding cake costs. Just a little tip here, you can up your wedding cake price by $45-50, then that way you get your cake tasting fee and your supplies covered, but also you get the wedding cake price covered. I hope that makes sense. Are you still with me? We got this. So the reason I choose to have the first flavor free is to get an idea of what kind of bride and groom I'm working with here. Sometimes it helps me understand what their budget is or how narrowed in they are with their decisions. It's not an exact science, but it does help me to see what we're working with here. Do we have a bigger budget or not? But I also give them some broad numbers just so they are not coming into their consultation and get sticker shock. So I just tell them, for this particular design, we're looking at $100 to $200 per tier, depending on size, flavor, and design specifics, just to get them an idea. And then they're coming in with the consultation with an idea, very rough math of what they're looking at, what they should budget for their cake. Once we have those flavors secured, I make sure I get that cake tasting fee deposit, or the fee itself, before the date. This is very, very important because people put much more weight into things they pay for. That way you aren't going through all this work to just be like, oh, sorry, we can't make it. Can we come back 3 weeks from now? And we're like, no, the cake's not gonna be good, or the time is super valuable. So it helps people value your time because they have money invested. Now let's talk about if we're inviting people over to our house. It really depends on your situation and what you feel comfortable with. I've done it a couple different ways. One way is I offer a virtual cake tasting where I have them come to me, they pick up the cake they want, and then they go home in their own comfortable environment. They get a chance to eat the cake on their own time, not on camera or directly in front of someone. They can feel a little bit more comfortable. And then we hop on a video call through Instagram and we talk about all the details. That is one way that we've done cake tastings. Another way is in person. Well, I'll have them come here and I'll have a little table set up with the cake, some water, fork, and all my supplies to take notes of what their wedding is. We sit down and we talk about everything. That's the second option. Third option is to actually go to a neutral location. It could be a coffee shop, it could be a lunch space, it could be the food court at a mall, it could be at a park, just something that you feel comfortable meeting people at. And then you bring your cake and your materials you need to take note at, and you meet up that way. Those are a couple options. When I was planning my wedding, it was really important to me that I actually talked face to face with my wedding vendors, because I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to get their vibe to see if that would be a good fit for me. And that's kind of what this is. It is a little bit of a job interview and audition to see if this is the right fit for you guys. And it's okay sometimes if it's not. It's really, really hard to do that, but it's gonna save you so much time and grief if this is just not the right person for you. So you guys can fill each other out. Now, let's talk about what we actually talk about and the questions I ask, not only to get to know them, create a rapport, but also get all the information I need for their wedding. The first thing I do with them when they come in and they sit down, I express how excited and I am for them to be here. Then I ask them how they met. It is so much fun to hear how they met, and a lot of times these days it's on a dating app and people are really sheepish about that, which I think is really cute. And I just want to affirm how they met, because sometimes people can get embarrassed, but I'm not here to judge, I'm here to get to know, and I'm here to support and celebrate you on your special day. So I really try to make them feel comfortable. I let them know, hey, me and my husband met on a dating app, and that's how we got connected. I love it, I'm a huge fan, or whatever it is. Other questions I like to ask but don't ask every single time are, how did you guys get engaged? What are you guys' favorite dates? Where are you guys going to be living? What are your wedding plans? All that jazz. And then we dive into the wedding stuff for sure. Then we dive into like more wedding specific stuff. So I start by confirming their date, the day and the date, because sometimes those can get mixed up. And on my form, I always write, this is Tuesday, March 15th, or whatever it may be. I don't know if that's an actual correct for this year, but you get the idea. That way we have the day and the date correct and the year. Then I asked them to tell me just generally about their wedding, whether it's like a boho, an elegant style on the beach, in the mountains, are you eloping, or are you doing it in your parents' backyard? All that jazz. And while they're telling me, I take notes. I take note of their venue, I take note of the overall feel and theme they want to go for, because that will help inform different design suggestions I make for them and help steer me and my back knowledge of cakes in the right direction, so I can suggest and really understand what they're going for. Because a lot of people, they don't know the exact cake terms. We do. We know what a tier layer, what a bundt cake is. I don't know why that came to mind, but they don't necessarily know that. So I try to really gain as much information as I can with the theme of their wedding. Then I can pull up pictures. All right. One big thing I forgot to mention before the consultation is I ask them to send me inspiration pictures, because I want to get an idea of what they're going for. Then in my time before they're coming, I can get an idea and use my back knowledge and information to get an idea of what they want, and also price it out. Because when I get in front of people, sometimes I have a really hard time doing all the math and to remember all of my numbers. And so I'll just jot down a general idea of the pricing that I would charge for this, because sometimes when you're sitting in front of your person, sometimes when you're sitting in front of the people, I'm like, sure, I love you guys, I want to do this for free, and like that's not sustainable. Like, Caitlin, we cannot do that. So writing down a general idea helps me to make sure I am charging correctly. I also make sure to ask what colors their wedding are, so I can make sure that I have an idea. I also personally, when I go to deliver the cake, I like to dress similarly in their colors, so I go in as like in theme and I kind of fade into the background, because my job is to get in there, set up this gorgeous cake, and make others' day easier by taking care of this. And I'm not the star of the show. I'm here to bring you your gorgeous cake and celebrate you. And that's a little touch of how I like to do that, and it's often in dress. Every once in a while I'll wear jeans or something like that, depending on the load in. If it's really, like if I have to hike in, I don't want to do that in a dress. So that's an idea. One of the best compliments I got was I was heading out and carrying all my cake stuff, and someone came up to me and was like, oh, are you the maid of honor? Because are you a bridesmaid? Because I wear very similar colors. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate your acknowledgement of my attention to detail. But that's just a me thing that I do. Please, no pressure that you have to do that. All right, once we have all that covered, I ask them to dive into the cake and enjoy it. While they're enjoying their cake, I will give them a moment and make sure I have all my notes correct, make sure I have the venue address correct, and then I will ask them about their vision for their wedding cake. And oftentimes we dive into the inspiration pictures. We discuss what's the difference between a tier and a layer to make sure it's exactly what they want. I do just a small sketch, and I let them know, hey, Just so you know, I'm much better with a piping bag than a pencil, but I'm just doing a rough sketch so we can get it through. But if you are like the most amazing color pencil artist, like go for it, man. Like that's freaking awesome and adds such value. Or if you like to do it on an iPad, awesome. Those are great options. I personally am not, so we rely on inspiration pictures and just a simple sketch. I'll also have styrofoam cake rounds there, so they can get an idea of what the actual size will be and not just from a picture. So I will show them the different sizes, whether it's a 10, 8, and 6 inch or a 12, 10, and 8 inch or whatever it may be. That way we can get an idea of what they're actually looking at. I thought this was going to be a quick video. Turns out I had a lot to say. Also, with their inspiration pictures, I like to ask them specifically what they like about the inspiration picture. Is it how the frosting is done? Is it the size? Is it how the flowers are placed? Because I might pick something out of a picture and be like, okay, they really want a ruffled buttercream with a cascading flowers, but it's really just like those are the type of flowers I want, and I like how it's white. I want it to be smooth, but I like how the vibe of it. Hopefully you catch my drift. The idea here is to get specific. I just want to make sure that I understand their vision and we are on the same page. Once we have the sizing, the design all done, I'll talk to them about the flowers and where they want them placed. I often tell them, hey, I recommend you getting your flowers from your florist. Then when I deliver the cake, I will place them exactly as we talked about. That way the flowers are cohesive throughout the entire event, and you as the baker don't have to go to 4 different grocery stores and flower shops to try to find the right daffodils they want. And we'll talk about specifics of how they want the flowers placed, whether it's cascading down, just a little bit here and there, some on the top, some on the bottom, around the edges, all that jazz. And I'll give them pictures and options of those things because sometimes that can stump people. Then we'll dive into flavors. So fun. And I'll explain to them each tier can be a different flavor, but if it's a naked cake, just remember you will be able to see the cake layers. We choose our flavors. It's so fun. I love it. And I really try to, just as a side note here, talk to both the bride and the groom equally. Oftentimes, I would say like 80% of the time, the bride really takes the first step and has all the answers, and the groom's just kind of there to eat cake and say yes. But sometimes the groom really wants to be involved, and so I really try to leave space for that and not feel like I'm just worried about the bride. I try to talk to the groom as well, since this is a joint decision between them, because you don't want to make them feel like they're just being cooked. Kick to the next very important thing we need to ask them is about their scheduling of their day. I need to know, when are they doing their ceremony, when are they doing, if they're doing a cocktail hour, if they're doing a reception, if they're doing a dinner, if they're doing a luncheon. I need to know all of that, so I'll ask them to take me through the scheduling of their day and understand what's happening where, and then I suggest where, once I know the schedule, I will suggest where it would be best for me to come in with the cake, set it up, and have it ready for oftentimes their reception. Once we cover all that, I ask them about cake stands. Oftentimes venues will have cake stands ready for them to use, but I also offer cake stand rentals that I bring with me when I deliver the cake and I take away at the end of the night. This is my experience showing, but if the wedding is not within like a 20-minute radius of me, I do not offer the cake stand rental because it's just not cost effective for me or them for me to charge so much money for me to come and get it at the end of the night. But I will send them to different places which are great to find stands if their venue does not already have them. So I ask them if they want the cake stand rental, with the caveat that the venues often do have the cake stands they can use, but if not, I do have these available. I have pictures of them that they can choose, and the prices are on the picture of the rental. Okay, hope that made sense. Then I ask for any other questions or anything like that, and then I take a moment and I run through numbers, and then I come back with them and I just do an overview of everything we talked about: the date, the colors, the cake design, the specifics, the flavors, time I'm going to deliver it, and then I also go through the numbers with them and what everything costs: the cake, the delivery fee, the tax, the 50% deposit I require to save the date, and then options for payment plans and when the final amount is due. I personally have the final amount be due 1 week before the wedding. Also, that is my cutoff for when anything can be adjusted or added, because 1 week before the wedding is when I really start to gear up and plan when I gear up and start everything. I also tell them that I will text them all this information, and it'll also be in the contract, either emailed or physically. That way we are both on the same page and everything is clearly communicated. Policies as far as cancellations and changing things as necessary. I also give them my personal phone number just in case they have any other questions, concerns, or they need anything. That also really helps me, because not only do I have my physical copy of everything we talked about, but I also send them a text confirming everything we talked about, because sometimes you're gung-ho and everything is super understandable when you're sitting down, but when you go home, it might like totally leave your brain. That's okay, I totally get it. That way we both have a copy of everything we agree, and I have a confirmation of what they want. But I also let them know, if you have any questions, concerns, please let me know. I'm happy to help in any way I can. Whew, that was a lot of information. I hope this was helpful to you. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help, honestly, in any way I can. If you're looking for more wedding cake information, I have a tiered cake class where I take you through start to finish how to make a tiered cake so you're wedding ready. But I also teach one-on-one wedding cake classes where it's very similar to this. I bring you into my kitchen virtually. We talk about your wedding cakes that you have coming up, and I take you through everything from the booking process to the making to the scheduling of how to get everything done for a wedding cake start to finish without burning yourself out and with as little stress as possible. We also talk about how to deliver these sky-high wedding cakes and make sure everything gets there safely. We also talk about wedding cake flowers, how to place them, how to prepare them, so they're safe for everybody involved. And that one-on-one class you can schedule by DMing me on Instagram, and we'll make sure to find a great time. I'll also give you more information if you're just curious. All the links of everything I talked about will be linked down below. Please like this video and subscribe if you like. I'm just so happy you're here, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my kitchen next time. Thank you. Mwah. Bye. Woo. One more look at my hair. Am I vain? Just a little bit. Thank you. Bye.